attention. So it was kind of challenging to ask to hold the applause, but there was one very dramatic piece in the middle, and someone forgot, and they applauded, and all the dogs got up and started barking. So you can always go like this for applause. If you want to do that. I'm welcome to that. So I'm going to talk a little bit, but I want to get the dogs completely settled, so I won't stay on this too long. But I want to tell you my story of how is a concert pianist, Juilliard graduate, playing concerts for dogs. My career has definitely gone to the dogs, and I'm very proud of it, actually. So in 2003, I was a puppy raiser for Guide Dogs for the Blind up here in San Rafael. And at the time, I owned a music school in Half Moon Bay, where I reside. And I had attended a lecture, a weekend seminar actually, by a sound researcher, world-renowned sound researcher, Joshua Leeds. And the seminar was on psychoacoustics, which is the study of how sound affects the human nervous system. And it was for teachers and for healers, and I went to this to learn how I could apply these principles to my students. So I was learning how to use my voice and how to use sound and music to calm children, and I learned how to effectively get a group of 4-year-old students to quiet down in 30 seconds flat. I learned how to work with ADHD kids to get their attention and to get them focused and centered and calm. I learned by discharging their nervous system. I learned to do the opposite, and so I learned to charge the nervous system of a 14-year-old boy who was very tired after school and came in for their piano lesson. And this was so effective that first of all I asked myself, how did I ever teach piano without knowing these skills? It was so profound to me. And I knew that this music meaning classical music that had psychoacoustic rearrangements in it that I'll talk about in a moment. But this music was being used around the world in neurodevelopmental centers with autistic children. And I went back to one of Joshua's lectures with one of my faculty members from the school, and at that point I had a 4-month-old yellow lab puppy from Guide Dogs by my side, and a light bulb went off that said, I wonder how this music would work with dogs. And I wonder if it would not only calm them, but if it would possibly relieve anxiety issues. So I asked Joshua if he was interested in creating music for dogs, and he said, are you kidding? He was quite world-renowned. He said the same thing that most people would say, my career is just not going to the dogs right now. But he's a research guy, and he went to UC Davis to see how much research had been done and how much needed to be done. And what he found is enough had been done that it sparked some interest, and there were a lot of holes in the research as well that show that there was more to be done. So one of the research studies that had been done is by an Irish behaviorist by the name of Deborah Wells, and she had done a study actually in San Francisco testing dogs in the shelter environment with different kinds of music. So she tested pop, rap, jazz, heavy metal, and a control group with no music, with no sound at all. And what was found all across the board is that the classical music calmed the dogs, caused them to lie down, and caused them to stop panting. Classical music, however, has a very broad term. It was basically anything these days, meaning from Bach, who was born in 1685, up to current day classical kind of music with current day composers. So it could be anything from solo instrument, it could be solo voice, it could be a string quartet, it could be a 120-piece orchestra, it could be very complex, it could be very simple, it could be chamber music, and so it's such a wide category that we wanted to find out if classical music that had these psychoacoustic arrangements would calm the dogs in the shelter environment. So what we did is I recorded 4 hours of music, 2 hours solo piano, ranging one hour was 40 to 60 beats per minute, another hour was 80 to 100 beats per minute. So all pretty slow, some very slow, and the 80 to 100 is moderate tempo, certainly not fast. And then chamber music with a trio of cello and English horn and sometimes oboe, going from those slow tempo 40 to 60 to 80 to 100. And what happened in the shelter environment is all across the board. The solo simplified piano calmed the dogs, caused them to lie down, caused them to stop barking and stop panting. So then we wanted to take the music into the home environment and see if it would relieve anxiety issues in dogs. And so in this case, we tested particular anxiety issues that the people knew that their dogs had. So we purposely tested right before 4th of July, because in this country, so many dogs are so sound phobic and fearful of fireworks. We tested separation anxiety, we tested other sound phobias, thunderstorms in other parts of the country, we tested excessive barking and so forth. So at that point we tested in the home environment particular anxiety issues of classical music that was played off at the KDFC, wonderful KDFC radio station, versus music that had the psychoacoustic rearrangements of solo piano music. And the results that came back were so profound that we thought, people are going to think we're lying if we tell the results of this, which was the music, the classical music with the rearrangements that was slowed down, simplified solo instrument piano was 100% more effective at relieving anxiety issues than the other classical music. And since then, amazing things have happened that I'll talk about a little bit later. But what I want to start with is some demonstrations of what we're doing with this music to make the psychoacoustic rearrangements. So there are basically three things that have to do, these come off now, that have to do with tone, tempo, and pattern. And let's start with a Bach First Prelude. These compositions are masterful. It's Bach, Chopin, Schubert. We can't make these any more beautiful. We're not trying to. We're just creating an intentional purpose for them. So I'm going to take the Bach, very famous First Prelude, and I'm going to play just a little bit of it as Bach wrote it in about the tempo that he wrote it at. Melody, but the first thing I'm going to do is lower it because lower frequencies calm the canine and human nervous system. And then the second thing I'm going to do is actually simplify it. We want to take out patterns. Your mind is always searching for what's next in these broken chords. So I'm going to play them for a little bit as solid chords that simplify it. So it causes the listener, whether it's human or canine, to go from active listening to searching for patterns to passive hearing. Significantly slow it down to about 40 to 50 beats per minute. And then I'll play this through this time. hopefully you felt a little bit of your own nervous system. Thank you. Your own nervous system calming down a little bit. And the dogs, some of them take a little longer than others, but they're doing great. So I'm not going to talk too long before I go into the next composition. And I will warn you, the whole program is not like this. You won't be falling asleep through the whole thing. So I will pick up the tempo and the complexity and the energy. We find that after the dogs are calm, and they tend to stay calm if nothing new is brought into the environment. And this is still a lot for some of them. So I'll start to gradually pick up the tempo. And now, well, the next composition is more like the tempo of the first one. So this is Schumann. And by the way, I may move some pieces around in the program based on how the dogs are responding to. But the Schumann, this is a very famous melody, so if I play this as written, and this has been used in a lot of movies as well. So we want to simplify that. So one way we can do is, let's say I take the same tempo, same register, so it's pretty high, and just take the melody